Hi again, everyone. This is Wednesday's video, part 2. You just watched the showing versus telling video where we did the short activity and then we went through the PowerPoint of showing and not telling. In this video, we are going to continue to focus on showing and telling. You should be sick of it thoroughly by the time you're out of this unit. We're going to look at 4 sample papers, the one that you already read for homework a couple days ago, and then I just put up yesterday 3 new sample papers, and all of these are from actual students in my course, and I found them to be very successful papers. So we will also talk a little bit about theme in this video. Your free write yesterday was about theme, so I will have already commented on some of those, and then the last thing that I will describe is your writing response 1, which is due at 4 p.m. today on Wednesday. Okay, these should be 1 page double spaced, and I'm asking you to write one of your stories. So this will overlap with your narrative draft, which is due on Friday. And on Friday, the draft, the whole thing, 1,200 to 1,500 words, is due 11:59 p.m. on Friday. And then on Thursday, I'll show you how to submit that. Okay. For the writing response 1, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to submit that, just in case you forgot from the previous video. So we're under coursework. Again, this is our home. Go to exploratory writing. So all of the writing responses, you will have 10 of them throughout the semester. They're already marked on the syllabus, and they count as 20% of your overall grade. These exploratory writings you cannot revise, okay? So like the papers you can revise, you have until the end of the semester. That would be August 5th, August 5th to revise them. But the exploratory writings, you cannot revise them, okay? You get a grade on those, and then the total of the grade counts as 20% overall. Okay, so writing response 1, like I said here, type and submit 1 of your 3 stories by 4 p.m. on Wednesday today. Must be a minimum of 1 double-spaced page, 12-point font, Times New Roman Arial, and then submit it as an attachment. So when you go up here to the first writing response 1, click on it, and this might be review for most of you. It has the due date here. This 1 point possible literally means I accepted or I received the assignment. It does not mean you got 100. You might have got 100, but if you see under the grade center 1 out of 1, that means I have received it. Okay, this is the case for all free writes, all discussion board posts. It's just a way to communicate with me that you have done the work, you submitted something. Okay, so for you, before Wednesday at 4 p.m., go to Browse My Computer, and then you will already have a document here. Maybe it says writing response 1. You'll click on that document, you'll hit open, and then it should pop up as an attachment here. Then you just hit submit. Okay. Wednesday evening or Thursday morning, depending on how much work I have to do, I will download the entire folder and I will provide some comments on your draft, okay, on your story. So hopefully you'll receive them before your first narrative draft is due on Friday at 11:59 p.m. on eCampus, and then you can employ some of my feedback to help you with your draft. All right, let me know if you have any questions about that. This is the first writing response, so you'll get used to hopefully the pace and also what's expected with these writing responses. Okay. So for today, we are going to look at, like I said, some more sample papers and some theme work. So we go to papers, again, the narrative unit. You're going to be so sick of the narrative unit by the time you're done with it. And here I've already created a sample paper folder. And this first one is the one that I required you all to read. You do not need to read 2, 3, and 4. You can, however, if you want. Okay, they are all good examples of the narrative paper. They're all doing different things well. So let's talk a little bit about what they're doing well. Let's look at this first sample paper again. It should be nearly burned into your brain at this point. So, the theme. I've said it several times, but the theme should be in two main places, okay? Your title is a good place to mention the theme or just kind of introduce it to the reader. And actually on Friday's videos, we'll talk more specifically about titles and conclusions. Okay, the second place you should see the theme is really where a thesis statement would go. So I'm sure in high school or whatever English class you've taken before this one, instructors may be strict about where the thesis statement should go. They may even make you underline it or highlight it in some way. That's not necessary for me. I'm a pretty good reader, so I'll catch it if you have a good thesis statement. But typically, they are at the end of your introductory paragraph. Okay? So here in our sample paper, we have this is the introduction, and this sentence here, which again, you do not need to do this for your paper, but this one here is I would say the thesis statement or the theme sentence. The reason why, I'll go ahead and read it, but the trip felt nothing like I had remembered. It went from exciting to almost boring, even though the only thing that changed was our age. So this, let's go ahead and correct the grammar here. And again, grammar is the most minimal thing to worry about in these drafts. And for your midterm and your final portfolios, I'm expecting the grammar to be on point, but before that, I'm looking for content-based stuff. Okay, so he's starting to describe his first story, which in your writing response, you should include one full story. I want to read it. It might be a little bit over one page, that's fine, but I want to get a feel for how you're adjusting to showing versus telling and see how much more instruction I can add. So that's the first part of his thesis statement or theme sentence. The second part is more important. It went from exciting to almost boring, even though the only thing that had changed was our age. So he's really saying the transition, the change that he will describe later in his conclusion from exciting to boring. But the only thing that changed was their age. So he's talking about how age or growing up, how entering adulthood alters perception. It alters how we experience the world, how he experienced the world. And his three stories of the raft, the soda explosion, and the snakes are reflections of this truth in his life, how an exciting experience is now a boring experience because he has aged. Okay? And this is talking about imagination in childhood and the loss of childhood. So again, his theme would be the loss of childhood, and the three stories demonstrate that loss. This is something you should be doing in your paper. I've already talked about this several times in your outline that I've provided for you. And you can structure your paper another way. I think this is just a nice way for students to kind of access or enter this narrative unit with that outline structure. So in your writing response 1, give me one of those stories. You can include your introduction if you want, but I definitely want to see how you're showing and telling. Okay, so let's look at a different paper because I'm sure that we've about talked this one out. You've read it, I've talked about it in more than one video. So we're going to look at sample paper 4. No. Yeah, 3. Okay, we're going to look at 3, and then if we have time, we'll go to 2 and 4. So I've mentioned this this paper before, and I think I've even had it in a video, but the same thing is going on here in terms of structure. So this student has a title that gives us some indication of what she'll be talking about. She's talking about maybe typical stereotypes of blondness versus being brunette, and she starts it out with a question, and she kind of highlights these different moments, which she'll describe 3 of them specifically, and then let's go down to the thesis statement or the theme sentence, This is a question I ask myself often, but do not spend much time trying to figure out, for the simple fact that my blonde moments bring joy and laughter to anyone that I am around. So it could be shortened probably to this, but her tone would be lost. So it's nice that she kind of answered her own question in her introduction. This is something specific to the narrative genre. In an academic paper, we don't want to be asking too many questions because people go to academic papers for answers. But in a narrative genre, you can question things a little bit more and you can use a little bit more. So my blonde moments bring joy and laughter to anyone I'm around. The 3 stories that she has, so if you read through this one, she's talking about, she asks, do they call them Laffy Taffy because they make you laughy? And a lot of people in the car found this hilarious. It was like one of her blonde moments, so she calls them. She also asked, are people born with dreads? Because she didn't know how dreadlocks worked, which is funny. And then the last one is, how are you supposed to reach the ice cream at the bottom of an ice cream cone? My tongue doesn't go that far. So this, again, is just kind of another moment. It's almost like a face palm moment, and that was really, well, I guess she has a 4th one. Yeah. And so all of these moments really compile to resemble like these blonde moments in her life, though she's brunette, so there are certain stereotypes or expectations that she has countered in a comical way. And here is her conclusion, and this really outlines the resolution and the change that I will talk about a little bit later, but is also on the outline. Why are these blonde moments significant? Yes, it's funny. It's a kind of lighthearted paper. However, the so what question, which I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, the so what question basically means, why should I care? And it may sound a little harsh, but it's important for anyone reading your paper. Think about if this were a published article, if you were doing this as your job, which I mean you are because you're all students, but her blonde moments, she talks about, she acts as comic relief, and that life is transient, it's passing, it's fleeting, and it's difficult. And these blonde moments add a little bit of laughter, lightness, some sort of relief from the kind of darkness of life. So she really gets in depth here, and it's a great moment. I would even encourage, I did encourage her to go even further with it for her final portfolio, but it's the greatest moment I think of this paper is really just this last sentence here, or this last part of this last sentence, where she ends it literally with the word laughter, filled with laughter. Okay, so she's being really specific with her word choice and how the last impression, or the last laugh, if you will, she wants to leave with the reader. All right, so we have about 2 minutes left. Let's go ahead and check out the 4th one. Yeah, this is a little bit stronger. So he doesn't have a title already. I don't know what I'm getting into. Okay, so please do provide those titles, and I'll add more instruction later. This is one of the greatest introductions I've read in a student work. So he's talking about an astronaut coming down from space and all of the pressure of gravity that re-entering the atmosphere adds to the body. He talks about muscle deterioration and body acclimation to certain environments, etc. And all of this, he's just asking the audience to be a part or be beside him, again, that showing versus telling on this journey back into Earth. So then he says his transition is his frontier is not space. He talks about being in college. He does go a little bit chronological. I said, don't do that. But this kind of imagined opening really lifts the chronology of the paper. So he can basically get away with it. Okay? Unfortunately, we are out of time. So I'm going to leave you with that. Hopefully I've provided enough instruction for your writing response 1. If you have questions about it, email me. Other than that, we we will be talking about some style details tomorrow, and keep working on your papers. All right. Bye, guys.